Okay, so this is the second half of this method and platform. We ended off here, and we'll start up here, of course. Purpose of pinning controlling on the ground. Let's see, a good example. Say for the police, they're doing that so they're not physically, well, it happens, but they're not trying to strike you or kick you. They're not trying to throw you to disable you or hurt you. Now, all of those things could happen in a police situation, especially here in the West where we live at. But the kind of purpose of this of pinning someone for us, and even would be for the police, is being able to control them. It's a different mentality. You know, you're fighting someone. That, you know, if you have that mindset, you're trying to equal them and then trying to overcome them. If the mindset of trying to control somebody, pin them, get them on the ground, is that it's just a different approach. And the objective would be less likely to hurt the person, but subdue them. And so in a lot of situations, this could be more applicable. Again, it would be the situation. Why only two primary tests? Let's see. Well, again, there is a variety of Shuai organizations here in the U.S. Some of them use multiple belts. Some don't. The American Combat Squadron Association, which I have my certification from, they utilize white, blue, and black, for the first black belt, and that comes from Master Chong and Master Chong incorporating a belt rank for the police college in Taiwan I guess to show that the cadets are at this level of training and so forth. And I haven't really changed that. I think it's a good approach. Giving belts throughout the process that can encourage people and keep people going. But at the same time, in my mind, it's training. You don't see boxers don't get belts. Kickboxing doesn't get belts. It has its place. I do use stripes in between them, so say the person has the white belt. If they'll take small tests in between so that they're prepared to take this blue belt test that we do, and it's over. Say we divide out this content, and it's mainly more just to give them some validation that they've accomplished something. And in theory, part of this would also be a set of steps to achieve, and these steps are just incremental aspects of the training. I have nothing against the people that do more belts. At the same time, I feel that this is an acceptable approach. My teacher and the organization that he helped create, they felt it was a good approach, and I don't feel the need to change it. How long to complete a blue belt test? I'm going to answer this in two ways. How long to get to the blue belt and then the test part. So there's no time frames to me, and my teacher doesn't do it with time frames either. Meaning, this person that can show up 3 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week, and they do a lot of additional training on their own to develop themselves. They go to all of the events and they can do all of that stuff. Of course, they're potentially going to complete the stuff faster than someone that can't, or maybe they have a family and they have a job that's very demanding, and they just cannot show up that much or devote that much time. Then you may have somebody that just doesn't want to put the same effort as someone else. So to me, when you do things by, okay, well, the person has been here for, we'll say 4 months, it's time for them to do a test. And then another 4 months, it's time to do another test. I think that sets a goal. To me personally, I think that sets a wrong example. That says that as long as you're paying the money and you're at least somewhat involved, you're still going to get the same, you're going to get the same recognition no matter what. And I think that not everybody's going to get a black belt, and for varying reasons, character, they can't put the time, they don't want to put the time, they quit, whatever. But so it could be over a year, it could be a few years. It really just depends on the person. The test itself, if you watch the video where I laid out all of this content for the Blue Belt test itself, it seems like a lot, but you have to see it's not like coming to a regular class. It's not like Thursday this week, I'll tell you next Tuesday you're going to take a test, and then you go in and you take the test. Or even a couple of weeks out. I mean, it's something where I and the person that's going to take the test, we sit down and discuss it. They make a plan, I make a plan with them, and they take it seriously, and they put the time in it to prepare to take that test. It wouldn't be doing it in normal class time either. Meaning it would be some kind of time set aside specifically for this person or for a couple of people to take this Blue Belt test. As an example, done these in the past, and say maybe it's one person or 2 or 3 people taking a Blue Belt test. Say we do it on a Saturday morning. It starts at 8, and they progress through this content, and they see if they can accomplish it all, give an explanation of the material, show that they have a level of comprehension as well as physically can do this stuff. The test could probably take anywhere from 3.5 to 5 hours. And if you look at any higher rank test in most groups, it's going to be something like that. It's not considered. It shouldn't be considered an easy test. Usually, so like say that day, say it starts at 8, and they're done noon or 1. We probably would have already planned out some type of a lunch or something that everybody would go to. I'm not talking about just the person doing it, but other students that are in the school would come there that day and support them and see the process and how it goes. And then everybody would go to the lunch and celebrate the person's accomplishments and have that camaraderie around the individual and the school itself. I think that that's very important, and it's doable to do the test in that time frame. And anybody that learns the material can understand it. They're not having to guess at it. They're not having to go back and refer to the content on paper or something like that. But they know well enough they can take the test and move through it. They practiced the throws. If you notice in there's a whole series of throws that throw people, and there's a time frame. Well, they're not going to just do it that day. They may have tried to do that several times. Before they do the test to ensure that they have the stamina and the endurance to actually do it. Why not include other methods when testing? Well, because I'm testing somebody for Shuai. When in the class setting, it's a different dynamic. Whether the teacher, I'm not just talking about me, I'm just trying to give you an example. The teacher has background in these other arts, that they teach, and they want to show how it could combine with Chiao components, like throws or the follow-on techniques and stuff, or maybe they're good at the striking or grappling or long-range stuff, and they want to experiment with that in class, show how it blends together or how to counter those moves. That's great. That gives the person experience in an understanding more clearly of what they're doing as it relates to Shuai. But personally, I feel that whether it's the blue belt test, black belt test, second degree black belt test, whatever, I feel that the test should specifically be over what Shuai is. That doesn't take away from the other training, but it's being specific, and that's what you're being judged on. But we look at it from this perspective. If you have an organization, say like with this American Combat Shuai Association, my CFO, John Wong, say Master Lin, Master David Lin has passed away. Both of them had different views or methods on what they trained on to work within their Shuai. Okay? But they, as well as Master Wu and Master Qi, agreed on a consensus of what was important to test on. And so whether my teacher showed me some praying mantis hand drills, or we worked on long fist forms, that's wonderful, that's great, and I'm glad that he shared that kind of content with me. But when I did my Shuai blue belt test, or my black belt test, or my my third degree black belt test, whatever, I did that test specifically over what Shuai is. Now, saying that, I do feel that, as an organization, it should be able to make adaptations, changes, add other things that they feel that are important. That should be a group consensus, not an individual. On the one hand, if you had everybody doing that, and then you want to grade somebody, I know it's very difficult in which to ensure that you're doing it right. Say for example, this person does X and Y, and they add it into the testing. This person does M and O. And this other person that's helping with the test has no idea what X and Y is. The mechanics of it, how it effectively works, or if it works. And so it would be very difficult for them to validate and grade that. But if their experience and their understanding is based on this system, then it's easy to validate the people from different schools or different instructors throughout an organization. And I feel that that's that way with pretty much any organization. I'm not speaking of mixed martial arts. That has nothing to do with what I do in that world. In other words, I don't know how. To be honest with you, I don't know if they do any ranking, any testing whatsoever. I'm assuming some of them do, but I would imagine a lot of them don't. They're purely training for competitions, and they know that these are the rules and the tools that are needed. So then they work within these dynamics to develop these things. So in theory, if you think about it, even with them utilizing a combat sport, they still have a realm of things that they should be practicing and working on, that the judges, the referees could all agree on that it's a suitable technique for the competition or to be able to win the event. But what I was sharing is, I do think that, say, you have this specific method, right? For example, like long-range fighting and how does it integrate into Shuai, or say grappling and how does it integrate into Shuai as a method, right? And you could potentially test over something like that, right? You have these parameters, and it's not about another system or style, but it's about the mechanics of the movements, how the movements are deployed. You can do the same thing with weapons. Like in the 90s, the Lone Teams Wing Chun organization, they incorporated a Filipino stick and knife fighting system that people got graded on. Now that specifically was that style, and to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't think it was merged together, but they were taught and graded, basically at the same time. But still, they were specifically two different entities, but they were taught within the same school. Nothing wrong with that either. So anyway, there's a lot of talk around that, but to me, just basically what I'm saying is, I share as much different variety of content that I can to my students, but whenever it's time to take a test, they're taking a test specifically over what Chiao is. And it's not that I just have this hardline concept on that. It's also the fact that there's, I would say, saying there's 50 teachers of Chiao, Chiao, with this study. In the U.S. would probably be an exaggeration. There's not a lot of people that do Master Chong's system of Chiao, and I don't want to dilute that. I don't want to change what should be the expectations of the system. Now, I may be off on what I feel is in the system, but if there's more knowledge and more information of the system that I can learn and integrate into what I'm sharing with others, I'm all for that. But what I'm getting at, it's a very unique system. I think it's very street ethical. It has such a variety of different realms that a person can train in and develop that I don't want to mix something else with it. I've done this for, like I said, for almost 30 years, and it is, I've had my ups and downs with training it, with relationships within it, within the group that is Chiao. And I don't want to modify it. And I have zero interest in that. What I teach in my class and what I share with students, that is me, and that's insulated. It's inside of what I do. But outwardly, the standard that I want to show is what I feel Chiao is, based on the elements that are in it, without without me adding beyond that, right? Making sure that I'm teaching all of these different form concepts, the apparatus, right? I mean, these things will disappear, and I don't want to see that happen. There's certain training exercises and things that if I don't hold on to those things and make them important to my students or in the test, then they'll disappear over time. And I would hate to see that happen. Why some always use the jacket and some don't? Well, I live in Texas. It's hot here. There are guys that do Chiao that are, like, say, in New York. There's guys that are in Florida. There's guys in California. I think there's a group in Washington. There's people in Colorado. There's other people here in Texas. There's my, so there's people in different areas. Considering where I live at, today it's going to be 100. I would rather go practice without the jacket, because in theory I'm not going to have the jacket on in a street situation. Now maybe 3 months out of the year I might. So yes, we do practice the jacket. Also too, if I was going to bring people to compete in sport, Chiao, the Chiao, I would want to get people to work the jacket, work carrying and spinning techniques, grips and holds, working throws that will facilitate the jacket, right? Say if I lived like in Maine or something, right? Or you'd be used to the weather, but still to the point, you'd probably wear a jacket the majority of the year, or at least a large portion of it, a lot more than what I would wear here, right? So I would think that practicing the jacket would be more beneficial. Now, as it relates to this too, I have this idea of using denim jackets, right? I know that sounds kind of weird, but you can buy pretty cheap off Amazon or eBay. It's just standard denim jacket. Nowadays they're cheap, and you can get them in all different colors: white, blue, black. You can get them red, brown, purple, whatever you want. But practicing sometimes with something like a denim jacket, it is more like what someone would wear on the street. I'm more focused on street applicable stuff. So to me, it's a mindset, right? If I'm practicing throws and getting grips on something that is more like what somebody would wear on the street, that process is in my mind. If you're just always doing it like with a regular squat Chiao jacket, you know, it has grips and stuff that you can get. It's really kind of an open vest, right? So kind of a different dynamic, and you know, and your brain is processed using this type of jacket. And then if you needed to apply it on the street, maybe it would be a little disconnect, right? But using something like that denim jacket, it's not going to tear that any more easier than a squat Chiao jacket. But you can still do the grips and everything on it, and I just think that it adds a sense of more realism about what's going on the street, how you would deal with somebody with a coat on. There's nothing wrong with wearing the jacket all the time. Some people feel that that's very important to wear the jacket when they're, you know, when they're doing all of the classes and when they're performing stuff, doing things. I respect that wholeheartedly, but to me, I think there's a time and a place for the jacket. My training sport or self-defense. So this is like a two-part question. Whether it be squat Chiao or something else, when you see a school and you want to try out that martial art or the system of fighting or whatever, you really want to ask the instructor what is their, what are they focused on? Just because somebody, does X, it doesn't mean that, that they're all geared towards sport. Maybe you want to be a competitor, and you really want to try that avenue. Or maybe you're just concerned about your self-defense and you want to focus on that. Well, maybe the sport wouldn't be as beneficial to you, vice versa. So important to know. Me personally, my main focus is on self-defense, utilizing the system of squat Chiao. The sport to me is, are we going to, do we need, do we have people that want to compete this year or for this event? And then, okay, well, we're going to need the next 3 months to train up for these events, or the next, that's all on experience level also. But you need time to be able to get your body to peak. Meaning, right before you go to the events, you want your body right before it's going to peak. That physically, your mental focus, your training. All of this stuff is at this point before your body will start to maybe crash again, or we start to peak and fall off. And so that's really important in a competition season. But doing sport stuff year round, to prepare for that, I don't. But yes, the students wrestle, they spar, they do sanda, they train in that stuff in the class, but it's a different dynamic. If you don't just go, well, there's a tournament next weekend and there's going to be some full contact sanda, who wants to go? And you can say to yourself, well, we're training hard like that. No, that's different. You may be training hard in the school, in the class, but are you really prepared? Have you really drilled the rules? Do you know? Are you training the rounds? I mean, that stuff is important to be successful, in my opinion. Methods versus methods. What I mean by that is people get so wrapped up again in this martial art versus that one. This one's better than that one. That one's better than this. Try to let all of that go, because it's not doing anything for you. It's creating this politics and this divide in your mind. It's not necessary, and it does you no good. Train in what you feel is suitable for you. Now,